1. The meeting beneath the desert sky in the late 1800s. Amidst the unforgiving deserts of Arizona Territory, Evelyn Carter, a frontier woman traveling with her missionary father, first encounters Taza, a proud Apache warrior, beneath a blood-red sunset. She's drawn to his quiet strength, his calm dignity, and his piercing gaze, unlike any white man she's ever known. Their meeting comes after a violent sandstorm, when Evelyn, separated from her wagon train, is found by Taza and his younger brother. Though her people would call him savage, he treats her with a reverence that unsettles her heart. As the days pass, Evelyn's fear turns to fascination. She learns fragments of the Apache language, discovering the poetry and its rhythm, words that speak not of conquest but of connection. The desert becomes their secret meeting ground, a place where their differences fade beneath starlit skies. Taza, though wary of his tribe's code, cannot resist the woman whose courage mirrors the spirit of the land itself. They fall in love, though both know the cost of such a bond. The shadow of prejudice their secret meetings can't last forever. Evelyn's father, Reverend Carter, preaches salvation to the heathen tribes, while the U.S. cavalry hunts the Apache as enemies of the state. When a scout sees Evelyn with Taza, word spreads like wildfire through the settlement. She becomes the target of gossip and shame, accused of betraying her race and faith. Evelyn pleads with her father to understand, but he's consumed by hatred and fear. Taza, too, faces the fury of his people. The Apache elders warn that the spirits will curse their tribe if he continues to love a white woman. Torn between his duty and his heart, Taza promises to end the affair. But love, once ignited, is not so easily silenced. One moonlit night he comes to her cabin whispering, "My love, prepare yourself. The dawn will bring truth, and truth cannot be undone." She doesn't yet understand what he means, only that his words carry sorrow. The revelation at dawn. The cavalry raids the Apache camp, guided by a traitorous scout. Evelyn wakes to the sound of gunfire and rides desperately toward the chaos. When she arrives, she finds the camp burning. Among the dead lies Taza's brother, and near the flames stands Taza himself, bloodied, unarmed, and furious. He reveals that it was her father who betrayed the Apache to the army, exchanging their safety for gold and favor from the territorial governor. Evelyn falls to her knees, torn between love and horror. Taza's eyes fill with tears as he says, "The blood between us cannot be washed away. My love, prepare yourself, for what comes next will break us both." Then he turns his knife toward the horizon, not toward her, but toward vengeance. The cost of truth, Taza's vengeance, is swift. He spares Evelyn but swears that the land will drink the blood of the guilty. Days later, Reverend Carter's settlement is attacked by enraged Apache warriors. Amid the smoke and screams, Evelyn sees Taza once more and a ghost among flames. She runs to him, begging him to stop. He hesitates, torn by love's final thread. But the past cannot be undone. Her father lies dying by his own deceit. Before Taza vanishes into the wilderness, he turns to Evelyn one last time. His voice trembles like wind through canyon stone. "I told you to prepare yourself, my love. The truth has no mercy, only the desert does." The aftermath years later, Evelyn remains alone on the land where the desert blooms after rain. She tends to the graves, her father's and the ones unnamed. She writes in her journal, calling it the Apache's revelation, where she confesses everything, that love can exist even between enemies, but truth destroys what lies cannot protect. The story ends with her walking into the desert at dusk, whispering into the wind, "I am prepared now. Taza, take me where the sun never sets." The wind answers softly like a lover's sigh. 1. A stranger's rescue during a violent raid on a frontier settlement. Clara Monroe, a settler's daughter, is captured by an Apache war party. Yet instead of cruelty, she finds unexpected compassion from their leader, Kohana, who shelters her from harm. Over time, she learns his people's customs, and that the raid wasn't savage but retaliatory, a defense against broken treaties. As months pass, Clara and Kohana fall in love under the sacred cliffs. But their union is shadowed by secrets, whispers that Kohana knows more about Clara's past than he admits. A love beyond boundaries, Kohana teaches Clara to ride bareback, to speak to the wind, to feel the land as living spirit. Their bond deepens, two souls meeting where nations collide. Yet when she asks him why he looks at her sometimes with such pain, he only says, "My love, prepare yourself. One day you will see what the spirits have shown me." His tribe fears their relationship, claiming that the white woman carries the blood of their enemies. Clara dismisses it as superstition, unaware that the truth runs deeper than fate. The revelation of blood when U.S. soldiers invade the Apache lands again. Clara's long-lost birth papers are recovered from a raided caravan. It is revealed that she was not the Monroes' real daughter, but the half-Apache child of a woman taken during war years ago. Kohana's own sister, believed dead. Kohana's compassion toward her was born not of romance but of a haunting recognition he could not accept, until love made denial impossible. The revelation crushes both. Kohana weeps as he tells her, "The spirits warned me. My love, prepare yourself that we share the same blood." Their love, sacred and cursed, shatters under the weight of that truth. The tragic choice unable to face the shame of their forbidden bond, Kohana goes into exile, vowing to face the spirits in solitude. Clara follows him into the desert, desperate to find him before he dies of hunger or guilt. When she finds him at a sacred spring, his body is weak but his spirit calm. He tells her that the only way for peace is through release, through letting the desert reclaim what was never meant to be. They share one final embrace beneath a red sky, as if heaven itself mourned their love. He drinks from the poisoned spring, an old ritual of atonement. Clara holds him as he fades, whispering through tears that love is purer than blood. The legacy years later, she becomes a teacher for Apache children, bridging two worlds that tore her heart apart. Her students call her the woman who remembered. She writes the story of her love and its revelation, that love can redeem even the darkest truth, though it demands everything. Her final line reads, "He told me to prepare myself. I did not know he meant for a love that outlives death." 1. A fateful encounter. In the windswept canyons of New Mexico, Margaret Hayes, a teacher traveling to establish a frontier school, encounters a Huli, a young Apache warrior. Their first meeting occurs under tense circumstances. Margaret's caravan has been halted by a river swollen from a recent storm, and a Huli appears not as a threat but as a guide, silently leading them through hidden paths. There is an instant spark between them. Margaret sees in a Huli a combination of strength, honor, and gentle wisdom, qualities rarely found in her life among settlers. A Huli is equally captivated by her courage and empathy. Their conversations are brief at first, punctuated by glances and the shared understanding of survival in the harsh landscape. Yet an unspoken tension lingers. They both understand that their connection defies the rigid boundaries of culture, law, and society. A growing bond, amid prejudices. Margaret continues her journey. She finds reasons to return to the canyon. A Huli teaches her survival skills, how to read the sky for weather, track animals, and even tend to wounds in the wilderness. They share evenings around fires, where a Huli recites Apache legends and Margaret reads poems from her homeland. The intimacy of these moments cultivates a love that neither can resist, but outside the canyon, prejudice looms. Settlers are suspicious of Margaret's absences, whispering that she fraternizes with the enemy. A Huli's own tribe expresses distrust toward the white woman, whose presence in the canyon could provoke the wrath of soldiers. The couple's private moments are laced with fear, the fear that love, once revealed, will bring destruction. The moment of confession, one night, as the desert wind rattles the canyon walls, a Huli takes Margaret to a sacred cliffside, a place where his ancestors communicated with the spirits. He tells her, "My love, prepare yourself. Soon I must speak the truth I have carried for years." The confession is staggering. A Huli's family was involved in a past massacre that claimed the lives of several settlers, including some of Margaret's relatives. He has lived with guilt and shame, believing that love with her is impossible, fearing that their connection might be tainted by history. Margaret is shocked but sees the depth of his remorse. She understands that love alone cannot erase the sins of the past. But she also recognizes that a Huli's integrity and sorrow reflect a capacity for goodness that surpasses vengeance. The tragic turn. Just as Margaret begins to accept a Huli's confession, U.S. soldiers, alerted by local settlers, launch a punitive raid on the canyon. The couple attempts to escape, but chaos ensues. Ahuli is wounded while protecting Margaret from bullets. The love they shared is violently interrupted. In the turmoil, Ahuli whispers one last time, "I told you to prepare yourself." "I never imagined it would end this way." Margaret cradles him, weeping as he fades in her arms. The canyon, once a sanctuary, becomes a place of grief and loss. Ahuli's final words linger, haunting her. The revelation of his past was not meant to harm her, but to prepare her heart for the inevitability of their separation. The aftermath and legacy: Margaret survives the raid, carrying both physical and emotional scars. She returns to the settlement forever changed. She establishes the school but never speaks of Ahuli in detail, sharing only the lessons he taught her about courage, honor, and compassion. Years later, she visits the canyon alone, finding a single feather on the cliffside where Ahuli confessed. She kneels, placing it in her journal as a token of a love that defied prejudice, guilt, and tragedy. The story she writes reflects the complexity of human emotion, the tension between love and history, and the enduring power of a revelation that changes everything. Her journal concludes, "He asked me to prepare, and I did. Yet nothing can prepare one for a love so pure and so fleeting. The truth we carry shapes us even when it leaves our hearts broken." 1. A meeting in the shadows in the rolling mesas of Arizona Territory. Lillian Harper, the daughter of a wealthy rancher, encounters Nantan, an Apache warrior, during a chance encounter near a hidden spring. She is lost while exploring the outskirts of her father's property, and is startled when Nantan emerges silently from behind a sandstone outcropping. Unlike the violent stories she's heard about the Apache, Nantan is calm and measured. He offers her water and guides her to safety. Lillian is struck by his quiet dignity and piercing eyes that seem to hold centuries of wisdom. Nantan, in turn, is intrigued by her innocence, tempered by a fierce curiosity about the world beyond her sheltered life. They converse in a mix of broken words and gestures, slowly discovering shared humanity despite the chasm of culture and history between them. By evening, Lillian senses a connection she cannot explain, while Nantan knows the bond will be dangerous. He warns her quietly, "My love, prepare yourself. There are truths that will test the limits of your heart." Lillian smiles, thinking he speaks in metaphor, unaware that his warning foreshadows a tragic revelation: the secret of the white feather. Packed over the next several weeks, Lillian and Nantan meet secretly in the canyon, exchanging stories, learning each other's customs, and finding solace in shared laughter. Nantan explains a sacred tradition of his people, the White Feather Pact, a promise made between two souls of different worlds, symbolizing trust, loyalty, and shared destiny. He gives Lillian a single white feather, instructing her to keep it safe. He explains that the feather carries not only symbolic love but also a solemn warning. If the bond is broken or dishonored, tragedy will follow. Lillian, enchanted by the romance and ritual, accepts the gift wholeheartedly. The couple's love deepens, transforming into a spiritual connection. But Nantan is torn. While he loves her deeply, he knows the realities of their world. Her family would never forgive her, and his tribe could see their union as a betrayal. The feather becomes a silent testament to their fragile hope and the impending storm that threatens it. Betrayal and revelation. One day, Nantan is called back to his tribe to face a council. He discovers a devastating truth. Lillian's father, seeking to expand his ranch, has bribed soldiers to attack nearby Apache lands, including the secret canyon where Nantan's family lives. The betrayal is compounded by the knowledge that Lillian herself remains unaware, innocent in her love yet tied to the source of the tragedy. When he returns to Lillian, he says solemnly, "My love, prepare yourself. The world you thought you knew is not what it seems." He explains that the soldiers are coming to destroy his people, and that her father's ambition will bring death to many. The White Feather Pact, meant to unite their hearts, now binds them to a tragic destiny. Lillian's face pales as she realizes that the life she has always known is implicated in the suffering of the people she has come to admire and love. Nantan confesses that the only way to protect both their hearts and their people is for her to choose between family, loyalty, and love, a choice no one should ever have to make. Point 4. The tragic choice. When the soldiers arrive, chaos erupts. Nantan leads his people in a desperate attempt to defend the canyon, while Lillian watches in horror. She tries to intervene, pleading with her father to stop the violence, but he refuses, blinded by greed. As the battle rages, Nantan and Lillian meet one last time at the spring where they first bonded. He gives her the white feather once more, now tinged with blood and ash, and whispers, "Remember this, my love. Our hearts are bound, even if our worlds are torn apart. Prepare yourself. The choice is yours, but the cost is everything." Lillian must choose: flee with her father in safety, abandoning Nantan, or stay with Nantan and face certain peril. She embraces him, tears streaming down her face, understanding that love alone cannot shield them from the consequences of betrayal, prejudice, and war. The aftermath: Lillian chooses love, staying with Nantan. They escape the soldiers, but at a heartbreaking cost. Many of Nantan's family are lost, and Lillian is forever estranged from her father and community. The white feather, once a symbol of hope, now represents sorrow, sacrifice, and the fragility of human connection. Years later, Lillian remains in the canyon with Nantan, helping to rebuild what was destroyed. Their love endures, but it is tinged with the shadow of loss. The story concludes with Lillian reflecting on the lessons of love and loyalty, writing in her journal, "He told me to prepare, and I did. Yet no preparation could soften the weight of truth. The feather we shared binds us still, a reminder that love demands courage, and sometimes it demands everything." The white feather pact becomes a legend whispered among both settlers and the Apache, a tale of love and tragedy, of courage and the unyielding consequences of human choices. On a chance meeting in the desert and the vast, sun-scorched deserts of New Mexico, Isabel Thornton, a young woman fleeing the constraints of her strict colonial upbringing, becomes lost during a journey to deliver supplies to a remote settlement. Exhausted and disoriented, she collapses near a hidden oasis, only to be discovered by Makia, an Apache warrior with a reputation for wisdom and courage. Makia rescues her without hesitation, tending to her injuries and sheltering her from the desert heat. Isabel is immediately struck by his quiet authority and the depth of his gaze, eyes that seem to pierce through her very soul. Makia, observing her fear and vulnerability, is drawn to her bravery and empathy. Despite the differences in their worlds, a connection forms instantly, electric yet fragile. Under the starlit desert sky, he warns her softly, "My love, prepare yourself. The desert will speak truths that your heart may not yet be ready to bear." Isabel, naive and hopeful, interprets his words as a promise of adventure, unaware of the profound revelation that lies ahead. Love amid the sands. Over the following weeks, Isabel and Makia spend long days together, traveling across the desert, learning from one another. Makia teaches her the ways of survival, reading the wind, finding water, understanding the language of the land. Isabel shares tales of her sheltered life, her dreams of freedom and the world beyond the frontier. Their companionship blossoms into deep love. The desert becomes their sanctuary, a place where society's prejudices and historical enmities cannot reach them. Even so, Makia grows increasingly tense. He feels the weight of his tribe's traditions and the expectations of his people, a warning that their love, beautiful as it is, exists on the precipice of tragedy. One evening, under a blood-orange sunset, Makia places his hand over hers and whispers, "My love, prepare yourself. The spirits have shown me a path, and it is neither simple nor safe." Isabel feels the gravity of his words, but cannot yet grasp their meaning. The revelation of Judgment One dawn. As a violent sandstorm rages across the desert, Makia takes Isabel to a sacred mesa. The wind howls like the voices of ancestors as he kneels and reveals the truth. Makia has received a vision from the desert spirits, a revelation that will determine the fate of their love. The spirits have shown him that Isabel's family, unaware of her whereabouts, has aligned with settlers intent on destroying Makia's tribe. The desert, a living witness to centuries of human conflict, demands balance. Their love, pure though it is, cannot exist without consequence. Makia explains, "The desert judges us not for our hearts, but for the ties that bind us. You must prepare yourself. The choice we make will echo in the lives of many, and perhaps even in our own deaths." Isabel realizes the magnitude of the situation. Her love for Makia has entwined her fate with both her family and the Apache people, forcing her into impossible decisions. The tragic choice as the settlers advance and tensions rise. Isabel and Makia face a moment of unbearable decision. Makia knows that if they flee together, both their people will suffer and blood will be shed. If Isabel returns to her family, their love will be severed, yet countless lives may be spared. They meet one final time at the oasis where they first encountered one another. Makia takes Isabel's hands in his, looking deeply into her eyes. I told you to prepare yourself. Now the desert demands its judgment. Isabel, torn between love and duty, chooses to return to her family to negotiate peace. The pain of separation is excruciating. Makia watches her ride away, a lone figure against the endless horizon, knowing that their bond, though unbroken in spirit, has been condemned by circumstance. In a quiet, symbolic act, Makia throws a handful of desert sand into the wind, a ritual acknowledging the desert's judgment and the inevitability of loss. The enduring legacy years pass. Isabel becomes a bridge between her people and the Apache, advocating for understanding and cooperation. Though she and Makia never reunite physically, their love remains alive in memory, guiding her decisions and sustaining her courage. Makia continues to lead his people, carrying the memory of Isabel as a sacred treasure. The desert, eternal and unforgiving, becomes a silent witness to their love, holding their story in the shifting sands. In her journal, Isabel writes, "He told me to prepare myself. I did. The desert judged us, but it also preserved us in memory and spirit, in love that endures beyond all trials." The story concludes with a vision of the desert at sunset, vast and golden, whispering of a love that transcends life, loss, and the harshest judgments. The tale becomes legend among both settlers and the Apache, a haunting narrative of love tested by fate, culture, and the unyielding forces of nature.